Howdy, y'all. Caleb here. For the first time in a while, I finally got out to a GT. This past weekend, played in the Lone Star Grand Tournament here in Dallas, Texas, and had a blast. We had about 110 people at this tournament. It was hosted by Matt Taylor, and had a blast. It was a ton of fun. Had 5 great games. I ended up going 3-2. That's kind of what I was shooting for with the list I was taking. We'll look at it here in a minute. Um, had some really close nail biting games, and I just had an amazing time. The tournament was won by Ben Richardson playing a filthy list. He's a great player, but brings the filth with 60 Sentinels in a Lumineth Realm Lord's list. Glad I didn't have to face that one. I stayed down at the middle tables where we were having lots of fun. So we'll take a look at my list and go through my games and quickly hit on some of the fun parts of it. So my list, my point of this list was I really just wanted to bring 3 Bastiladons. I ran a 3 Bastiladon list at a local tournament a while back and had a lot of fun with it. Ran into a all dragons list that I just couldn't beat, just couldn't get through with the lack of random these Bastiladons. But I wanted to try it again. Hopefully I could avoid dragons and have some fun. So with this list, I kept trying to build it and was putting in Skink Star Priest and Skink Priest, try to buff it up, and it was costing me too many points. And so I went a little odd direction to try to buff the Bastiladons in a little bit of a unique way. So let's look at the list here. I'm going to have to back it up a little bit. There you go. Okay, so this is definitely my Castle Seraphon list in Thunder Lizard. I did take the Grand Strategy Continuous Expansion. In this tournament, that wouldn't have been worth as many points. We in the pack, if you take a Grand Strategy or Battle Tactics from your book, it's worth 1 less point, just to try to give a little bit of parity to those armies that don't have good Grand Strategies. But I found that I can usually get this one if I'm winning the game anyway. I can usually get Continuous Expansion either from the stuff I have left or some summoning in some warriors from the engine. So I like Continuous Expansion now. It's a little bit easier to get than some of the other ones. As long as you got 4 units alive at the end of the game, you can usually get it. My general is an Engine of Gods with Prime War Beast and Fusel Conflagration, Beastmaster, and Curse. Those are all things that give it extra attacks, the Prime War Beast and Beastmaster. And Fusel lets it do some mortal wounds. Although the Fusel can destroy itself. It did that, I think, once this tournament. Didn't destroy itself as often as it normally did. And you know what? I never forgot to use it. So that's a win in my book. Curse is really critical for the Engine of Gods. I try to deploy it in such a way that if somebody charges me in the first turn, I can get off Curse in my turn, and then I can hit that target with a bunch of stuff. So stay next to terrain, be within 9 inches of a lot of your screens, so that if anything charges you, you can get off Curse. Curse, if you don't know, is a prayer that you apply to an enemy unit, and any hits onto that unit that are 6s equal a mortal wound in addition to your normal damage. So a great source of mortal wounds in our army where we don't have a lot of mortal wounds on our standard attacks. We got spells and all that kind of fun stuff, but other than Curse and a lot on the standard attacks that you'll see here in this list. I also have a Slann Starmaster with Stellar Tempest to help me bust some hordes. I didn't really see too many hordes to use this on, but it did come in handy whittling down some mortal wounds on units. The aspect of the champion I put on the Slann Starmaster was Leadership of the Alpha. I didn't take the Tunnel Master because of my other Galatian champion you'll see here in a second, but Leadership of the Alpha allows you to apply a command ability onto 3 different units at the same time. And so I'm either going to use this for all-out defense on Bastiladons if I'm in a lot of trouble, but really this is to get a +1 to hit on all 3 Bastiladons if I need to on turn 1. And so I'm able to shoot all 3 of them and then apply this before that, so they're all hitting on 3s. It's kind of the Bastiladon's weak link, is that it's hitting on 4s. This allows you to get all of them on the 3s. The problem is you then can't double fire one of the Bastiladons, so I'm planning on double firing the engine if I ever use this leadership of the Alpha, so I can make sure and use that Thunder Lizard command point. My other Galatian champion is a Knight Venator. An odd ally pick, but he's a Galatian champion. He's fast, flies, so a 12-inch move, which means usually if I line him up on the line, I can get him over to one of the objectives quickly enough to score those to get the battle tactics. He's got a 3-up save, not a ton of wounds, but also has a very unique ability. In the shooting phase, instead of shooting with its normal bows, you can use an ability to target a Galatian champion, and it doesn't have to be visible to you. You just pick one within 30 inches, and on a 3-up, you'll do D6 mortal wounds to a hero or monster. Anything else, it's just D3, but to a hero or a monster, it's D6. So I'm looking to combo that up with the Slon Star Master, doing Comet's Call to get D3 mortals to a Galatian champion that's being, that's hiding behind some battle line, and then pop this Knight Venator's ability for D6 mortal wounds to that same champion. And because it's an ability and not a shooting attack, you can hit those Galatian champions that are hiding behind their battle line. So you can kind of get around that. So my plan was to pop some Galatian champions, D6 plus D3 mortal wounds onto those units. If I need the Engine of the Gods to roll its mortal wounds, get it within 24, and you can also do mortal wounds from the Engine of the Gods for another D3. So I'm reasonably sure that I can take out some Galatian champions with these 3 heroes, and I can get around all that, the Galatian champions rule where you can't shoot them when they're near battle lines. So I like that. That's kind of what I'm going for with those. Knight Venator serves a couple different purposes. Fast, decent save, flies, and can do mortal wounds. So I like that a lot. My units here are 3 Terror Wings, and for 80 points, Terror Wings are just fantastic. They have an ability that in the shooting phase, you get to roll 2 dice, and if those 2 dice roll above a enemy unit's bravery that's within 12 inches of the Terror Wings, then they can't use a command point for the rest of the turn. So this combos really well with Bastiladons, because I'm gonna run those Terror Wings who already move 12 inches. They're gonna move another, up to 6 inches. So you're talking 18. Then their ability goes out 12. So you've got a 30-inch threat range for their ability. And you can shut off command points. So if you're looking for a priority target with your Bastiladons, if that goes off, they can't use all-out defense. So a nice cheeky way there to get some extra damage through with the Bastiladons. This came in clutch a couple of times, but rolling 2 dice trying to get over a bravery is rough sometimes, especially if you're going up against armies that have high bravery. It's random, but it's also a fast unit that can score objectives, that can screen things out. It's only 80 points, so I generally line it right up on the line and shoot it straight across the field so that it's, if nothing else, it's taking up some space, causing them to have to play around them, causing them to have to put some wounds into them. And I think they even, they may have scored me a couple objectives during this tournament, so well worth their points. I took 3 minimum units of battle line for Skinks, and in Thunder Lizard, they are not very good. They will run, they will take tons of damage. They're just there as screens is all they are. This is a very weak, frontline castle with these Skinks will just get absolutely blown up. But I'm hoping to push them out, summon in some warriors behind, have some Terror Wings, and then also I've got these Vigilers. So I've got plenty of things to create screens. If I can start pushing my bubble out, it'll at least take them a turn or two to get through that into the meat of the castle. These Vigilers are my other ally, and also quite useful. They're a Stormcast ally, 170 points, fairly expensive, but for what they do, I really like them. There's 5 of them there. They each have 2 shots, 18 inches. They move 6 inches, so they have decent range. They have about the same range as your Bastiladons, threat range. I'm usually lining them up pretty close to the line, maybe slightly behind the Skinks. And what they do is if they can get any damage through on an enemy target, the rest of your army, and it's not tagged to just Stormcast, so it's anybody, will get +1 to hit versus that target. So, the idea is here, you shut down their command points with the Terror Wings, you get +1 to hit with all your Vigilers, and then your Bastiladons are just free to fire away at that priority target. That's kind of the idea. It doesn't always go that way. I mean, it is a dice game, but that's kind of how I'm lining up my abilities here. If for some reason the Vigilers don't get that damage through, then you can always do Leadership of the Alpha and give Bastiladons the +1 to hit. So there's multiple ways to get +1 to hit, and I was usually keeping them at +1 to hit through most of the game when I needed them. And then I've got 3 Bastiladons. That's kind of your core damage dealers. Everything's in a battle regiment except 2 of the Bastiladons, and that comes in at exactly 2,000 points and 100 wounds. 3 drops. So not the lowest drop, but low enough that I was able to beat quite a few armies. So fun little list, kind of off the wall, has some fun tech and some good pieces to it. And of course, I've got 4 monsters, 3 of which have a 1-up save. So that's always fun. Oh, man. Well, all right. I probably talked long enough about my list. So game 1, we're playing on Prize of Galais, which is you've got these 5 objectives, and whoever goes second gets to activate one of them. So generally, you kind of want to go second in turn 2, so you can activate your own home objective. But that's not always the case. It just kind of depends on how the game plays out. I'm playing against Jacob Matthias, a great player. He's very good. He plays Ogres. He's been playing Ogres for a long time. I don't know that I have ever beaten Jacob before, until today. So you see my deployment here. I've got my castle kind of set up with all my Bastiladons deployed fairly far forward. And he's got a Frostholder Stonehorn, a Battle Line Stonehorn, a unit of Noblars, 2 units of the big Iron Guts, maybe, and then a Slaughtermaster, a Tyrilla Hunter, I think, and then a Gorger. So kind of a good all-around list. I think he ended up going 4-1 on the tournament, maybe. So I think he did. But so here's how our setup was, and I had to go first in this turn. You can see he lined up pretty far back, but that's okay because I was able to get some damage onto targets. I don't know that I was able to really get much from the Bastiladons this turn, but the important things was my Galatian champion strategy worked flawlessly. So Comet's Call came down. I hit his Slaughtermaster and his Hunter, and I was able to plink some mortal wounds there. I was able to get some mortal wounds from the Realm Shaper onto him too. And then the Venator moved up to grab this objective, and I'm just kind of pushing my bubble out. I'm sending these skinks out. I'm sending my screens out, trying to create as many screens as possible to where he can't get through to my lines with his Stonehorns. He's also got an Iron Blaster back here. I don't know if I mentioned that, but he's got an Iron Blaster off to the right. The Galatian champion is able to get in range of the Slaughtermaster. I was really wanting to take out his Hunter guy. I think that's a Hunter. He was able to teleport around the board and be quite annoying that way. But the Venator's ability went off, and I think he had like 5 wounds left. But at that point, I had moved within range. The Hunter had teleported out of there, so he was now outside of 30 inches. So I had to go into the Slaughtermaster. Rolled the 3 up, and then rolled 6 wounds. And so with Comet's Call and the Venator, I was able to one-shot the Slaughtermaster off the board. That was nice. I was like, okay, My strategy worked. This is all going according to plan. I was able to shoot off some of the iron guts. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. It's a big foot ogres. I was able to do enough damage to those guys and kill some off with the Bastiladons, but not really as much as you kind of want to do turn one. I don't think I got any summons. I didn't really get a lot of summons in this whole tournament. But then it was over to Jacob's turn, and I think this is really where everything went downhill. This was one of those epically bad games for Jacob. Like I said, he's a better player than me, but his dice were just absolutely betraying him in this game. So everything he was wanting to do was just going poorly. Case in point, his like hunter guy, whatever, this guy right here, he teleports down back behind my lines and has a free run into the Slan. And he makes the charge into the Realm Shaper, what he needed to do, but he had to do it in such a way that he got within range of my Bastiladon. My Bastiladon Overwatch took him down to like maybe 2 wounds or something left. And incredibly, the Slan survived combat, and the Slan hit back and killed the Ogre. It's like, what? I think that's the first time my Slan has ever killed like a hero in combat. So, well done. So that's case in point. Jacob's dice were not doing him any favors. He brought his big Stonehorn down into me, but just basically got into some screens on his turn. I got the priority going into 2, and I had to take it, which meant he activated his objective, but then I was able to just pour everything into his Frostlord on Stonehorn. And I probably shouldn't have been able to kill it in one turn. I think Curse failed, maybe. I don't remember what else happened, but he rolled like a bunch of 1s on a save. He was on like Finest Hour. I don't think he had Mystic Shield because I think all his heroes may have been dead at that point. I can't remember, but all out defense, and he just rolled some 1s and didn't roll his wards, and now his Frostlord is dead. And pretty quickly, all of his heroes were dead, and then I think I kept winning the priority, so I don't think there were ever any double turns, and I just kept plinking away at everything he had left, and by the end of the game, I had him pretty much tabled. I think that's how it was by the end of the game. He may have had he had a Gorger that came in, but I took that one out too. So just a one-sided victory there for me. He had killed off quite a bit of stuff by the time it was over, but I had 4 models left, and to get my grand strategy, basically I had to run this Bastiladon here up through this gap. It took me like 2 turns to get him there, and then I had to make a run to get him wholly within, and I rolled what I needed for the run and got the extra point for the extra 2 points for the grand strategy. So great game though with Jacob. Probably if his dice hadn't betrayed him as much as they did, he probably would have beaten me, but you know what, who knows, it's a dice game. So finally I beat Jacob. And that goes on his permanent record. Oh, man. Game 2, I'm playing Brian Lofton, and he's been playing a 4 Iron Blaster Ogre list for quite some time. And I think he was playing them before they were even good and doing well with them. So he's a good player. And he's got this nasty Iron Blaster surrounded by a giant wall of Noblars. And he ends up putting his Frostlord on Stonehorn here at the front corner. And then some Frost Sabers and other random stuff off the board. We're playing on Position of Power, which has the flanking objectives on either side. And so on the edges, you have those ones that are just right on the edge. I outdropped him, but he had deployed in such a way that like I literally could not get to him. We're far enough away that without like a run and shoot, my Bastiladons just aren't going to do any damage turn 1. So He put his Frost Lord up in that front corner. I could have hit his Frost Lord. I could have killed Noblars. But if I took the turn, he was going to Finest Hour the Stonehorn, and my one hope would have been this Terror Wings hitting that Frost Lord and hopefully getting his command point shut down. Because otherwise he would have been on a 2-up save, 1-up save. 1-up save. So only failing ones. And I wasn't going to do any damage through that. So I felt like I had to give it to him. Now, maybe if I were to redo this, I might play my Bastiladons more aggressively, put them directly on the line, and then maybe I could have gotten to those Iron Blasters, but he's at the very back of the board, so it would have been very difficult to reach him. Those Iron Blasters have much longer range than the Bastiladons, and so he can set up at the back of the board with no worry about reaching the Bastiladons. And those Iron Blasters are like juiced up Bastiladons. So in this artillery fight that we have, he's going to come out on top, and it's not going to be pretty. His Iron Blasters, I think they can get to -3 rend, and they're doing D3 plus 3 damage. Just disgusting output from those things. And they're not afraid to get into melee because they'll do some crazy mortal wounds. They're like twice as fast as Bastiladon. Now, obviously, they don't have as great a save. That's what the Bastiladons are known for. But just a really, really good unit. So I give him the first turn, and I think I have my screen set up well enough. He's not going to be able to get in here. It looks like there's a gap here, a Stonehorn-sized gap right there. It's not. I was measuring that to make sure. I don't redeploy anything because I know there's not a real good spot for him to make that charge with the Stonehorn. I just want him to hit skinks. And I know he's got the monstrous action. Hopefully I can screech at him with these Terror Wings, and he won't be able to do that. Or he won't be, well, he'll be able to do the monstrous action, but hopefully he won't be able to do command points. But he gets in here, and unbelievably, he rolls. It was something insane. So on the Stonehorn's monstrous action, they roll 3 dice, and they can move that far over units. And whatever they move over, it does mortal wounds to. It was like he rolled like a 14 or 15 or something like that on those 3 dice. And that allowed him to get all the way clear on the other side of these Bastiladons and basically hit my entire army with mortal wounds. Just a great roll there for that ability. That monstrous action is ridiculous. So his Iron Blasters all shoot into this green Bastiladon, and his Stonehorn comes over the top and hits more mortal wounds, and then he basically pours, I think, most of his damage into that Bastiladon, some of it in the engine, and he basically kills one Bastiladon in his turn. So overall, it's not a horrible turn. He does capture all the objectives on the sides, which makes it a little bit harder for me to get those in the coming turns, but there's a picture of his yeah, there's a Stonehorn making it all the way back through. But on my turn, I get cursed off on the Stonehorn, and I take out the Stonehorn, and so that's good. But now we're basically set up back the way we were. He's lost a Stonehorn, I've lost a Bastiladon. It comes down to roll off. Roll off into turn 2 is going to make the difference in this game. If I get it, I'm going to be able to take out probably maybe 2 of those Iron Blasters with my Bastiladons on my shooting. I'll be able to take out his hero that's back there that's buffing those guys up. But he gets the priority roll and basically destroys the Engine of the Gods. Another Bastiladon is in his shooting phase and starts moving up with his Noblars and Iron Blasters. And at that point, I'm able to do some damage. I'm able to come back a little bit, but at that point, it's already over. He gets the next priority, and then my army is wiped out. So a pretty fast game there. It really came down to that priority roll into turn 2. His just cannons outranged mine, have better rend, more damage, and he had a piece that could alpha strike and hold me up for 1 turn. So If that Stonehorn hadn't hit me into my back ranks there, maybe I could have dug out a little bit faster and got those Iron Blasters, but really that Stonehorn having to soak up all my damage in my first turn, and then him getting second turn, sealed it for me there. So, good game. Iron Blasters are legit. they are rough. They will punch straight through a Bastiladon's armor. All right, good game there for game 2. Game 3, I'm playing against JC Moore, and we're playing on Ours for the Taking. That's that crazy battle plan that has the, big L-shaped and you're lined up only 11 inches away. So I took this picture slightly through the first movement phase here. But I lined my skinks up over on this side pretty much as far back as I could and still make a run and get on the objective if I went first for some reason. And then I had some skinks over on the other side of this building, literally at the back of the objective. So I line up in a way that these skinks here will probably get charged by his magma draw, so I'm not too worried about that. But literally nothing else is going to get charged, okay? If he wants to come, bring that one in here, he'll have to make a long charge. And his other Fyreslayers are literally out of range. There's no way they can make it to me. Until he rolls a rune that gives him +2 to move and +2 to charge. He empowers it. I think that's what it was. Maybe it's normally +2 to move, and he empowers it and gets a +2 to charge or something like that. And so he's got these 2 magma droths up here that are moving extra distance. He's got his Hearthguard Berserkers up there. They're just going to come down and claim the middle. And then he's got a ton of Volkites, I think, over on the right side. So when he does this, he makes 3 14-inch charges. So even with that +2 to move and +2 to charge, I'm still not that worried. I gave him first turn. I had outdropped him, and he makes 3 14-inch charges. So now all of a sudden, I've got 2 Magma Droths in my face and 2 big units of Fyreslayers in my face. I was not expecting that turn 1 from Fyreslayers. They're supposed to be slow. So this Magma Droth here went all the way over into my Engine of the Gods. Got right here, Engine of the Gods and the Vigilers. And I think I'm okay with that. I was a little worried he was going to here and tie up the Bastiladons. That would have been, I think, a little bit more problematic for me. But he comes over here into the Engine of the Gods. And it does hurt the Engine of the Gods, but not really that much. He obviously takes out these skinks, and these Volkites come and just tie up everything down here and then take the objective on the right side. His Hearthguard Berserkers, at least, didn't make the charge. They were far enough away that they didn't roll a 14-inch charge as well. But that amount of Fyreslayers in my face turn 1 was a surprise. Not gonna lie. In my turn, I did get, let's see, I think I got Curse off on the Magma Droth, and I was able to take it out with the power that was grouped up here. And then these 2 Bastiladons put a big hurt on this Magma Droth that's over here. So I basically left these skinks. These Volkites didn't quite kill off the skinks on either side, and so I left them there just to get tied up and keep him in combat. I may have retreated him right out to screen or something like that. I can't quite remember. Unfortunately, my Venator was tied up in combat. He couldn't actually fight anything because he was on the other side of this wall, but he was in combat. But I was able to start working some heroes down. I cleared out his Magma Droth that was in front of me. Really hurt the other one. And I think I got the double turn into 2. And I believe, and was able to push hard towards the middle. And these Volkite Berserkers were holding up the middle, and I basically souped up the Engine of the Gods and charged him into one of the corners of those Volkites Hearthguard Berserkers. Luckily, they were the ones that don't do mortals. They're the ones that have the rend and the 2 damage, so that's perfect for Seraphon because I'm going to be -1 to damage. They'll just go back to 1 damage. So I'm not too worried about their output. If it was the Mortal Wounds one, I would have just had to screen them out and stay away from them until I could kill them off. But these Fyreslayers are incredibly tough because with that hero there, they have a 4-up ward save, and so they become incredibly tough. I tried to put the Pterodons onto the Hearthguard Berserkers so they couldn't do their fight first stuff, and then I tried to roar them so they couldn't get it. Unfortunately, both of those failed, and they were able to fight me first, but they didn't quite do enough damage. My Terra Wings end up flying up here and grabbing that objective over the turn, but over the course of the game, let me see if I have another picture there. Oh yeah, there's him coming in. Over the course of the game, I was able to basically just keep whittling them down. The shooting was enough, and my monsters were tough enough to survive through the Hearthguard Berserkers, since I was reducing their damage, that I was able to throw those monsters in there and not worry too much about it, and that helped me whittle him down. And I was able to pick off some heroes with Comet's Call and the Venator. So I was able to end up getting rid of, I think I probably tabled him by the end of the game. And this one I had summoned in a couple extra warriors too, so that helped out a lot with bodies, and was able to get the win for the Fyreslayers. But I'm not going to lie, I was pretty worried in turn 1 when all of a sudden those Fyreslayers were all the way across in my face. But with enough shooting and with some decent melee output from the engine there in the middle, I was able to get that win against Fyreslayers. A very fun game with JC. I really had a blast playing against these Fyreslayers, and that ward save on those Hearthguard Berserkers was nuts. Tough to chew through, but ended up doing it and getting the win. Game 4, I played against David Rodriguez and his Dragons. When I saw the matchings go up for 4, I pretty much knew this was a loss. I said at the beginning I wanted to avoid Dragons, and I pulled an 8 dragon list. It has a Castellant. He had, what else? A Wizard to give him Mystic Shield, and he had a couple of Vanguard Hunters and Vanquishers. So a list really just solely designed around buffing up these dragons for that turn 1. It's a 1-drop. He had played at LVO and went 4-1. I think at LVO did really well there. He's good. He's a great player. A list that is really hard for me to beat, but still had a lot of fun. We were playing on only the worthy, which means that like Galatian champions they basically have obsec on these objectives. And so that's good. That can help me out a little bit because these monsters can't steal one as long as I've got a Galatian champion on it. But he was a 1-drop. I knew he was going to take it, so I lined up my engine. You can see it there, lined up to take the curse when they come in. So when they come in, I'll have my turn, and I'll be able to curse the unit and hopefully do some mortal wounds that way. I have my Bastiladons. There's nothing I can do. I knew that they were going to be coming in quick and fast. There's not enough room to really screen them out. They can fly. They can go fast, and they do. They come in. So not really a whole lot to talk about this game. He takes turn 1. One unit of dragons makes the charge. The other unit is stuck on that right side objective. And then I basically have to take 2 turns to try to kill the dragons off. I do get curse off, but it just doesn't matter. That's so many wounds, and it's so tough that I can't get through it fast enough. Maybe I wasn't hitting enough mortal wounds, but I was proccing all my stuff on them and still couldn't get that first unit dead. And unfortunately, because of the way the terrain was, and maybe just because of the way I'd lined up, he brings these dragons right here in the middle of me, and now I can't even push out of my own objective to score any of the side objectives that he had just got some Vanguard Hunters on. The right side one, he had another big unit of dragons in, and they came in on his next turn and killed off what was they may have killed off another Bastiladon. I don't think he killed one off the first turn. He might have with all his Dragon's Breath, but he spiked one Dragon's Breath so hard, it just straight up lifted a Bastiladon. um, so that may have been hit on his second turn. So that was fun. Dragons list is, man, I have trouble with this one. I'm not sure. I guess your best way to deal with them is like Purple Sun and Starseer, but there's a great chance that they're just going to ignore that because they have a 4-up ignore to spells. And so our best way to get rend, they have natural immunity to it. And so it's rough. It's tough to get through those dragons. So got tabled pretty quickly in this one. Then we got to sit around and have a few drinks and have good conversation. So, oh man, good stuff. My game 5, we're playing on Jaws of Gallet. So another oddly shaped one. You've got that big L-shaped deployment again. And this is the one where objectives can be removed by whoever goes second. And so I'm playing Rick Allen and his Kruleboyz. In fact, I've never played Kruleboyz before. And so I saw this on paper and I was thinking, no, this is going to be terrible for me because he's in Grin and Blades, which means they are not visible unless you're within 12. Well, I have a castle shooting list. I don't want to be within 12. And so I almost thought this is going to be an automatic loss. But deployment made it in such a way that I think, deployment is what saved me. And let's look at his list real quick. So he's got 2 big units of the Bolt Boys, 2 reinforced unit of those, some Gut Rippers, a few min unit of the Hobgrot Slittas, and then his real power piece comes in the Sludge Boss or something, a little guy crawling on the ground, and then a little troll dude that's crawling on the ground. I'm sorry, I can't remember their names. That one was paired up with the Kronspine. So his Kronspine is going to be that big damage as well as his Swamp Boss. I may have that name wrong. Whatever, this dude that does like a Snatch a Boss or something, that does the named one, that does a ton of mortal wounds. I didn't know that. I find that out. So I know I can shoot some into the Kronspine since it doesn't get the Grinning Blades keyword being a part of his army. So I am gonna outdrop him. I'm gonna get to go first, and what I'm gonna do is gonna be based wholly upon what his deployment looks like. I placed one Bastiladon down here on the corner first, and he put his Kronspine over here on the right, along with its support piece that gives it +1 to hit in melee. And so, at that point, I'm fairly certain a Bastiladon can withstand a Kronspine. I've thrown a Bastiladon into a Kronspine before, and it lasted a few rounds as long as I can get my saves up on the Bastiladon. I put a unit of Skinks there to redeploy in case the Kronspine comes in. I've got a hero to support this one, and I don't actually put anything in the Realm Shaper engine. By the time deployment finished, I realized I needed to shift all the way up to this left side because he ended up putting the wizard that the Kronspine is bound to up here in this top left corner, which is the one closest to me. And I think this is kind of where the adage of, you can lose a game on deployment. I think that was probably, if he could redo his deployment, he would remove that hero, and put him back here in this back far corner, swap it out with the other hero. Because once I saw that, I was able to deploy the rest of my army up here in the top right corner. And I know I have abilities that I can reach that hero, even though he's not visible to me. I make sure I put my Engine of Gods about as close as I can to that hero, so that I'm within range, that I can run, get within 12 inches so he's visible. I can do the Fusel, I can do the Cosmic Engine, and I'm able to hit him with some mortal wounds. Then I can do Comet's Call, that doesn't need to require visibility, and I can do the Venator's ability, that also doesn't require visibility. So a lot of weird things here going to this matchup where I can actually take out that hero that Kronspine is bound to, and I don't need visibility. So his 12-inch rule, 12-inch rule for not being visible doesn't matter there. Now I did have to get the engine up real close for, I think it was for Fusel and for the Cosmic Engine, maybe. I can't remember now. We were looking up these rules because I was like, okay, I need to figure out what is I need visibility for. What of my abilities do I need visibility for? This Bastiladon is basically going to be useless for quite a bit of the game until I get it up a lot closer. I had to run it turn 1. These Vigilors just aren't fast enough to really make a difference. But these Bastiladons over here, I pour all of their damage into this Kronspine in turn 1. So in my shooting phase, I'm able to kill his hero that's bound to Kronspine with spells and then all my abilities and shooting and all that kind of stuff. Even though he's protected by the 12-inch rule and he's protected by Battle Line, I was able to kill it. And then I was able to take the Kronspine down a level with the Bastiladon fires and score most of the board. And so with that, his Kronspine was actually the only combat in this first turn, and he had to turn around and kill his little Slogoth guy that's back here behind the Kronspine that was supposed to be supporting the Kronspine. So the Kronspine in turn 1 goes wild and kills his own unit in that turn. So I'm liking that. In his turn, he was able to put quite a bit of damage into the engine with his Bolt Boys, but since they didn't have the hero there supporting the close ones, they weren't doing near as much damage as they could have been. They were only doing mortal wounds on 6s and not 5s also. So basically halved their mortal wound output. So that was big. I was able to screen out all his melee up here in the top so they couldn't get to my engine and move in on this objective. My Terror Wings actually were critical for this one. I don't see his big Snatcha boss guy. He must have not put it down by the time I took this picture. But it was coming in the middle and had a pretty good shot at my Venator and Bastiladon that was there in the middle. But because I had, screeched at him with these Terror Wings, he actually failed his charge and wasn't able to re-roll it. And that also kind of saved my bacon on this one, because if that thing would have gotten that Bastiladon, it probably would have killed it. His Kronspine basically just came over and killed some skinks on that turn. And then I think he actually got priority on the next turn, was able to send his Snatcher boss over and killed my engine, which was, I was shocked that I didn't realize how many mortal wounds that little monster could output. So he's able to kill off my engine and put some other damage into me, but his Kronspine didn't take out a Bastiladon to level back up. So that was big. On my next turn, I was able to pour more damage into the Kronspine, the shooting that was out of range of everything else, and take the Kronspine off the table. And I was actually able to get the Bastiladon in range and kill off his Bolt Boys that were up there at the top. And these Bolt Boys back here basically were out of the game for a lot of it. They finally came into play late in the game, but they were moving up so slowly that just weren't really much of a factor until later in the game. And so at that point, he had killed off the engine. I had killed off his Kronspine, and actually I think at this point I may have killed off his other hero too. I can't remember. But I was able to keep the pressure on. I think his Sludge boss ended up killing off the other Bastiladon too. Just did an insane amount of damage. I had the Bastiladon on Mystic Shield and +1 to save, and that Snatcher boss guy just bam, killed him in one hit. A ton of mortal wounds coming through from that thing. But at that point, I think he had won priority enough. I had removed the important objectives and taken off his important pieces, screened out everything else, and was able to win the game. A really fun game with Rick. I really enjoyed this one. It was my first time playing Kruleboyz. I fell in love with that boss, that Snatcha boss guy that he was throwing at me. That makes me want to play one of those. I will not buy another army. Um, so that was a fun game. So overall, let's go to a wrap up real quick so we can finish this video. So let's see. As far as a wrap up goes, was I happy with the list? Yeah, I was. I think I felt like it did what I was trying to get it to do in the games that I won. The games that I lost, I legit just got blown out. Those Iron Blasters got the turn into two. That was the kind of the critical one, and won that shooting fight. And then the Dragons, this one just doesn't really have an answer to the Dragons. I didn't really face any Slaves to Darkness, which I was also kind of worried about because they can have a very, very tough save. Um, and so I think it's going to struggle into those high armor units. But for a lot of the other stuff, you know, it's a lot of fun. It kind of fulfilled what I was trying to do with a 3 Bastiladon list, getting plenty of buffs from everything and being able to snipe off Galatian champions that were hiding behind their battle lines. So I feel like I accomplished what I was trying to do with the list. I definitely feel like there were times where I wanted some more bodies in the list than I had, because it was a fight towards the end of every single one of those games where it was a fight for board control because those skinks just disappear in a little cloud, a little puff of scales, and they do not last very long. The Vigilers ended up sticking around fairly well. You know, they have a 4-up save. I would toss Mystic Shield on them a lot. If I knew my Bastiladon wasn't getting in trouble or the engine wasn't getting in trouble, I'd toss Mystic Shield on Vigilers since they would be kind of up closer to the fight. And so that would give them a 3-up save, which I could get down to a 2-up if, you know, theoretically a 2-up, if I needed to with all-out defense. So I enjoyed the Vigilers. You know, they kind of have a role there in an additional shooting, but also giving us a +1 to hit for the rest of my shooting. So I enjoyed it. It was a fun one. A great tournament. Had 5 incredible opponents, and we all had some good games, I hope. So all right, on to the next one. Time to since I only went 3 and 2, throw this list in the trash and start building a new list. See you guys next time.